Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Sim UK. I've got a great thing to show you today. If you have any appreciation at all for tanks or World War II in general, then this is a game you're definitely going to want to have your eye on. This is Arms Trade Tycoon tanks. Now, that kind of suggests that maybe there's going to be variations on this, or perhaps DLCs where you build things other than tanks, like aircraft maybe. I don't know, I'm speculating there massively, but this has got the Microsoft gameplay element to it. Microsoft, if you don't know who they are promoters who have been basically behind some of the best games ever to have released, and they're coming back, and they're coming back strong. So there are some parts to this game graphically, like the UI I think is maybe a bit hit and miss, but just stick with it for a couple of minutes, because when we get into the hardcore element of the game, you'll see why I like it so much. Obviously we got I think this is a Panzer or a Tiger over here. I recognise that, but I don't know the name of it. This is, I think, a Challenger. This looks like an M4 Sherman rather. And then over here we've got the iconic early day tanks, which is where we're going to start. So let's start here. Now, I got this game very late last night, and I've taken one very quick look at it, but I'm going to try and talk you through it today and give you like a first look gameplay review perspective. So we've chosen to be Great Britain. You saw at the beginning there, I forgot to tell you, there was Germany, America, France, I forget. But we're going to go with Great Britain. So let me just get into this. There's a lot of chitty chat that I've got to get through before we can start. Britain was the first country to invent the tank, and since then was among the leaders in tank design. After the clanking rhomboids proved the importance of tanks in the First World War, the UK went on several innovative ideas in tank design. Just after the First World War, Britain came to the conclusion that the best counter to a tank was another tank, and started to arm its vehicles with dedicated anti-tank guns, and was the first country to do so in the shape of the Vickers No. 2 tank. Presumably that's what we're looking at here, the Vickers No. 2. By the way, if you've never been to the Tank Museum, oh man, go. Just go. Because even if you're not really that into tanks, it's so good. So brilliantly put together. You'll love it. Great for kids, great for the whole family. In the interwar period, Britain was behind the idea of the tankit, a concept deeply attractive to most of the cash-strapped governments around the world. In the mid-1920s, Britain experimented with doctrine based around using the tank's mobility to fight somewhere other than the enemy's strongpoints. For that, she developed a series of medium tanks that had a combination of firepower and mobility. This idea was further refined into the infantry and cruiser tank concept that lasted a few short years before the British started moving back towards medium tanks, this time with added protection. However, the move was interrupted by the Second World War. During the war, Britain created multiple heavy armoured infantry tanks such as the Matilda or Churchill. Equally, from about the midpoint in the war, Britain began to think about the universal tank concept, which today we call the main battle tank, or MBT. From after the war, Britain tended to build very survivable with good cross-country mobility and effective anti-tank guns. As I say, this screen here, which is kind of like your main hub, it's not the most amazing looking thing, but behind it there's huge amounts of detail and some great modelling, some really excellent modelling. So we'll get to that as quickly as we can, but I don't want to leave anything out. Now, this is just a demo, guys, just to clarify. There's a lot of stuff that isn't currently implemented, and at the end of the demo, it does kind of leave you on a bit of a cliff edge, and you're like, I don't really know what to do next. But we'll get to that as quick as we can. So, welcome to the demo of Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks. This is a very early version of the game that should be seen as a core game loop only. Much is subject to change. We have lots of ideas, but we sincerely hope that you will join us on this journey and contribute with your ideas and feedback after playing the demo version. Please note that some of the events, characters and objects are not historically accurate and are added to the demo for the sake of the gameplay only. Now it is time to build some tanks. Your task is to make sure that your company will thrive until the end of the demo. We hope that you will enjoy this experience and will support us on Kickstarter. There's a link to Kickstarter there. So we're going to jump in. Sim UK, select your avatar. And I think we're going to go for this chap today. Company name. Let's just go ultimate realism. That's what I normally do. And we're going to go with the lion. Greetings, my name is William Hagues and I am the chairman of the executive board recently assigned to this role by your father. After your father's sudden disappearance, you, as a rightful heir, will gain control of all his assets and I would do my best to assist you in that. Bit of a weird storyline opener, but there you go. That's why we have control of the company and why he's teaching us what to do and how to do it. Personally, I would really appreciate it if they put some audio in so that this was spoken to you, because there's an awful lot of content to read. And I mean, that's fine, no problem with reading it or anything, but I just think it would give more to the game if they could put a voice in. Now, just on the off chance that they're considering that as an option but not doing it because of costs, well, I would offer my time for free to read out as any of the characters and, you know, create content on the back of that they could use for the game, because I like it that much. Okay, and I'm sure other people would do the same thing. Let's jump in. Let me start by expressing my joy to be the first one to show you your new property. All buildings on the factory grounds have recently been finished and your company is now fully operational. As you can see, all activities are divided between 6 buildings. Each building has one or several unique functions that you have to master in order to succeed. The research department is the heart of your company. It is here that all new ideas are born. Within these walls, blueprints are created for improved components and production processes. The engineering workshop within this facility, the research blueprints are analysed, combined and take shape. This process is called engineering. There is also room set aside in this building for reverse engineering to take place in the future. So basically, just to clarify, the reverse engineering aspect is if you capture an enemy's tank, you can reverse engineer it and steal some of their technology, which I think is a really cool, very nice addition to the game. The Design Bureau is the birthplace of your tanks. Here, under your leadership, your engineers will create tanks based on your designs and available engineered components. Whilst I'm sure you will make every effort to create a tank that matches your customers' requirements, the real test will come when they enter trials and inevitably on the fields of battle. So the trials are over here. These are not currently active in the demo, but you can send tanks to trials and they will complete the trials, but you never see it. So I'm wondering whether this is going to be fully animated and like a 3D environment where you can actually see the tank in action. I hope and pray that that's what that's going to be, but I don't know at all until later. But you know, if I had one interjection to make in this game, it would be, please let that be a fully animated 3D tank showcase thing, or even allow us to drive it. I don't know. I hope and pray that's as good as I envisage it. I really do. The production hall has recently completed renovation and maintenance. The equipment contained within this structure now stands ready to produce your tanks in large numbers. Just ensure that there is enough space in the nearby warehouse to store them. Speaking of which, the warehouse combines two functions. Here you can manage the logistics for your freshly produced tanks and negotiate resource deals with various suppliers. Finally, administration accumulates all the seemingly bureaucratic functions that can spell the difference between a successful Tycoon and a small-scale component supplier. Human resources, finances, and external communications are all handled from this office. As you visit each of these facilities, you will notice reserved, locked, and empty spaces. These areas of your operation are not immediately available to you, but your actions will unlock access to them in the near future. Alright, so let's get in. Are you ready for this? I wasn't sure about the game, I'll be honest. On my first playthrough, when I was looking at this, I was thinking, ooh, that looks a bit dated. But it gets very much better from this point in. Are you ready? This is the research department. Don't worry, it gets even better than this. The research department is the origin of all new ideas. Here, the best minds under your guidance will develop new technologies that will develop new technologies that will allow you to compete with other companies, both domestically and internationally. As you can see, there are multiple places that will require your attention, but for the time being, let us focus on the major ones. Oh, that skipped on before I was ready. Now let us head over to Research Line 1, where our engineers are eagerly awaiting your instructions. Before your father passed away, he had already made some progress on the development of the tank. Each tank, as perceived by your father, will have a well-armoured structure, high mobility and substantial firepower. The hull is the main body for the tank, and turrets, which are separate armoured sections which are attached to the hull. Your father believed that the mobility of the tank could be attained with the inclusion of two major parts. So here we see, we got components, modification 1, modification 2, modification 3, modification 4. So this is, I think this is a blueprint that my father put together, and we're now going to create that effectively. The power unit, which is a means of powering this multi-ton monster, and a running gear, a novel combination of the continuous track and other support elements that will allow the tank to easily trespass any cross-country terrain. Last but not least is firepower. Your father felt there would be a need for two types of interchangeable weapon parts. Primary weapon and a main caliber gun that will allow you to fight other armoured units for fortifications. And a secondary weapon, a support weapon that can vary from a machine gun to a mortar, with the sole purpose to deal with the soft and lightly armoured targets. Naturally, each component has a dedicated research path. Each advancement along that path will grant you either blueprints for tank parts or instructions for improvements in the production process. We have staff standing by for instructions on the next research assignment. I suggest we turn our attention to the whole component and make some improvements there. So you can see there's a technology tree which you can work your way through, and these take effectively, they cost you man hours, which I can't show you at the moment, but man hours, maximum man hours are available to you, but we'll get into that in a second. The riveted rhomboid hull is the final important component we need to research before moving on to engineering. Let's review the potential gain for this research project. As you can see, this technology grants you several blueprints that can be molded into new parts. You will notice that certain blueprints are marked as a component, which means they are key building blocks for a future tank part. Other blueprints are marked as modifier, and this implies that they can be used to modify tank components. Our engineer has just handed me the draft version of the blueprints for the anticipated Mark I hull. Let us study it in more detail. As you can see from the draft, there is a formal description of the component, and our engineers have included a plenitude of information that will inform your choice when it comes to developing this hull component. So you've got lots of fantastic information here: attributes, resources, and compatibility. This summary includes the expected attributes for the given hull. So obstacle trench width, obstacle step height, agility, and I think this is out of 10 possibly, I'm not sure, and obviously the mass weight of the tank itself. The resource panel explains the cost of research in man hours and resources. So in order to build this, we'll need 210 iron, 410 medium carbon steel, 250 high carbon steel, and 520 man hours. Now obviously the more people you have, the quicker something can be produced, but man hours are man hours. It will cost you 520 man hours for one man to do it, and then it will halve that halve that if there's 2, and if there's 4, 8, 16, etc, etc. The panel lets you know the anticipated compatibility with other tank parts. Note: to judge if something is compatible, the engineers are using a type system. This means that this hull can be combined with many other tank parts if the types match. This is a type 1, type 1, type 1, secondary weapon power unit and running gear. Also, please observe that the Mark I hull comes with several sockets where various modifiers can be mounted. Each socket is marked with the type: storage internal, for example, storage and internal, and location. The modifier is required to satisfy both conditions to be mounted. So this is storage internal. There might be a storage external, or maybe that's more of a Tiger tank thing. I think it's more of a Tiger tank thing. Let us now inspect the tail wheel modifier. Like the component blueprint, you can find the attributes. That's the weight, trench width, obstacle slope angle, step height, transportability, -2, and that's what it will cost to build it. And the production cost that will be added to the component where this modifier is mounted. Note that if you want to mount this modifier in the socket of the component, both type and position specified by the socket must match those of the modifier. I can't actually click on that, but I think that's an indicator that it sort of attaches to the back of the tank. I think that's what that means, but maybe we'll figure that out later. Now let us turn our attention to another possible outcome of the research technology, the production process. I can see that our engineers responsible for the turret advancements are discussing something. Let us join them. Please have a look at the tempered steel plates technology. Unlike standard technologies that are providing us with the blueprints, this one will allow us to apply the tempered steel process during the turret assembly. Let us inspect the notes that our engineers have done. It appears that the anticipated process will have an impact on the listed tank attributes. Note that there is also an associated additional cost that we should account for. It's going to increase materials by 1.5 and man hours by 1.5. Let's get back to the main task at hand. Engineers are standing by to assist with the research of a new hull part. So this is a reinforced hull frame. Before starting work on the reinforced hull frame, you will need to allocate all of your engineers to the research project. Now you can drag it or add them individually like this, but for this we're just going to go maximum, which is 15 of 15. Engineers will be committed to this project until its completion. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Yes. Sometimes it can be difficult to keep track of all that is happening in the research department. To assist you with this task, our employees have prepared an executive summary that you can access right over here. This is an overview window where you can find all essential information about the building. In the center you can find the current status of the building represented in multiple attributes. To the right you can upgrade your facility if you choose to do so. Beyond the immediate cost of each upgrade, there will also be an increased maintenance cost and potential risk increases as well. So be mindful when expanding and upgrading your business, because those gains will come with additional strains. Finally, from here you can also assign members of the executive board to their new roles to boost building productivity and decrease risks of fire, sabotage and accidents. Excellent! Time to return to the factory grounds and visit the other buildings. So you'll notice here, in the summary, among other things, that we have an accident risk. There's a 2.58% chance that there's going to be an accident risk. That means that the people you've got employed, say you've got 15, some of them might have an accident, and then you're not going to have access to them for a little while. Equally, there's a sabotage risk from the enemy who will try and come in and disrupt your proceedings, and also a fire risk, 1.88% chance. Now I don't know how bad a fire can be. Maybe it can burn all the way down to the ground, or maybe you just lose some resources, or maybe it just delays you. Who knows? There's a lot of additional depth here. This is what micropros are famous for, is yeah, we could do it very basic, or we could go really focused and really dig down deep and think about all the options and possibilities for this game. Alright. The next bit is my favourite bit. So let's just accelerate a couple of days here. Research completed. After much trial and error, the reinforced hull frame research project has been successfully completed. Many of our engineers have worked extra hours to make this possible. Make sure to visit your engineering department in order to turn the newly acquired blueprints into a powerful tank components for your future designs, and don't forget to assign the relieved engineers to a new task. Let us proceed to the engineering workshop and learn how to handle component modification. The next stage is my favourite stage. I apologise. It's after this. It's coming. Just give me a minute. As you can see, the factory is in disarray as much of the construction has only recently concluded. Let us proceed to the engineering workshop and see how we can go about turning blueprints from the research department into tank parts. I know it is this bit. It is this bit. Right, here we go. This is where you get to see the 3D model and how accurate this is. Having recently been to the tank museum, I have seen maybe not this exact tank, but definitely something very similar, and the level of detail and accuracy is mind-boggling. I am so impressed. The workshop is divided into 6 dedicated stations. There is 1 station per tank component. Let us work on the Mark I hull blueprints that our research department has just completed. Select the corresponding blueprint on the left. Wow. Look at the detail on that. There are rivets on the inside. This is exactly how this looks in real life. This is so accurate. Each component has a lot of modification potential. This potential is represented by the modification slots that can be found along the bottom of the screen. Note that these sockets come in different types, and you need to match the type with the modifier in order to mount it. Observe that all applicable modifiers are now shown. Some are ready for you to mount, while others are either not researched yet or currently locked for you. Now I've got to say, if it hasn't been researched, then maybe it shouldn't show up there. Just an idea, just an idea. Please select Escape Hatch. So this is going to pop in around about here. And basically, if the tank has been disabled and destroyed, you've got at least 2 ways of getting out of the tank. So let's click on this. You can see the escape hatch pops in here. You can now observe the attached escape hatch by rotating your perspective around the hull. This can be achieved by holding down the right mouse button and dragging. Actually, the left mouse button. You use the right mouse button, nothing happens. So it's either a typo or a bug. I'm not sure which. But holding down the left mouse button works perfectly well. You can zoom in as well. Unfortunately, you can't zoom in on it. You don't have complete control. Maybe a bit more control over the camera would be good. We could like literally drag and move it around and then zoom in. That would be wonderful, because the attention to detail here is absolutely sublime. And I, for one, you know, I would love to look at every individual component in huge detail and really get a look and a feel for it. This is fantastic. Honestly, this is so good. Wait till you see the engine and stuff. Brilliant. You can now observe the attached escape hatch by rotating the perspective. You are also able to zoom the view using the mouse wheel. Note that each modifier adds specific attributes. -1... I don't know what that stands for. +1 visibility, +1 comfort, +2 protection for the crew. Not sure what this one means. But that comes at the additional production costs, both in terms of the raw resources and man-hours required to manufacture the component. So it's an extra 35 kilos, it'll cost 5 units of that, 20 units of time, 20 man-hours, and 43 coin, or pounds. At any point, all information about the estimated production cost is readily available for you below. With this information, you can always make a right decision if the assembled configuration is adequate or too costly. Equally important are, of course, the resulting attributes, the overall attributes of the tank itself. Here you find the total mass of the part together with the mounted modifiers. All component attributes are distributed in 7 groups. Please open the mobility group to inspect more of the corresponding attributes. Note that each attribute is supplied with the description and a breakdown of the resulting value. Agility, road speed, cross-country speed. How can that be 0? Oh, because it's got no engine. Ha ha ha! Because it's got no engine and it's got no tracks. That's why it can't. I don't know how it's got an agility of 2 then. But anyway, whatever. Okay. Let us now try to start the engineering project. As you can see, it didn't work since we forgot to assign our engineers and several critical modifiers. Please select the secondary weapon socket. So this is the Diencourt ball mount. I'm not sure what this is right now. Excellent. We have now created a minimal configuration for our hull and named it. We haven't named it. We'll do that in a minute. You will certainly improve it in the future. Please assign engineers before starting the project. So I'm not sure what this is. Or whereabouts it is. It says it goes at the front. Could it be that? I'm not entirely sure what that is. I'm obviously, in the tutorial, I'm quite limited at what I can do. And what I can see, because this is in the way. But yeah, maybe it would be nice if the camera zoomed in on the part that you added, so you know what you've added. Or maybe just highlight it in some way so I can see it. But anyway, let's move on. Engineers will be committed to this project until its completion. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Yes, I am. Alright. Speed up time. Now you can see above the engineering that it's going to take that many days to complete the task you've currently tasked them with. Finally, the Mark 1 engineering project has been successfully completed. Our engineers are exhausted but also satisfied with the results. It might be worthwhile to visit your design bureau in order to mould the newly acquired components into new and even more powerful war machines. And don't forget to assign the relieved engineers to a new task. The project is now completed and we have a new hull component available in the design bureau. Let us proceed there and start working on your very first tank design. Finally, we are in the design bureau. This is the birthplace for all your future tanks. Later on you will be able to perform more tasks here, but for the time being, let us focus on the major one. So we started a new project. We're going to use the hull that we've just designed, which is this one, the Mark 1. Please review the notes that our engineers have left for you on the hull item. You can also turn off auto orbiting. I can't do it right now, but you can. There are 4 important fields that you will have to consider when choosing what hull to use as a base. Presumably it's these 4. The weight, the cost of resources, man hours, and overall price. The mass of the component and all the modifiers mounted on it, raw resources required to produce this component, man hours required to produce this component, and the total cost based on conservative price estimates for raw resources and man hours. It's an estimate as well, so that could go up or down, which is another cool aspect. And modifiers mounted in the sockets of the given tank component. Note that you can even directly access the information on the individual modifiers. Except we can't do it in the tutorial, apparently. For reference, you can see how many versions of the same tank component have been engineered. With that being said, let us select the only hull that is currently available and proceed. So there she is in all her glory. I think that's the front bit that we added. Not entirely sure. Next in the checklist is the running gear. Now, this might not look like a tank to you right now, but in the next 3 minutes, it certainly will. The centipede running gear, that must look very familiar to you. Like hulls, we have only one component available. It has the similar information, but with one significant difference. Let us proceed with the only available one. It is the running gear that dictates the maximum mass allowed for your tank. Note that the weight indicator has now changed and the maximum value has appeared. Let us now proceed and fill in the empty stations with the available tank components. Next in queue is the power unit. This is the Daimler Knight 6-cylinder engine. And that, my friends, is incredibly accurate to the real thing. Absolutely stunning. And you'll notice that the exhaust pipes here chuck out exhaust fumes straight into the tank. They didn't even consider having them coming out the top or anything like that. Just straight into the tank, suffocating all the men inside. Awful, awful working conditions. Now, this hull has been engineered with the possibility to have a front-mounted machine gun. My mic audio is a bit loud today, sorry about this. Is that better? Is that better? Now this hull has been engineered with the possibility to have a front-mounted machine gun. Let us select the corresponding socket. So this is a Lewis MG secondary. You can see it's now poking out the front there, and if you come around the back, you can see there it is mounted right between the driver and the engineer where they sit. It's time to take care of those side openings. Our engineers have used their naval experience and suggested to arm our tanks in the same manner as our glorious fleet does, namely sponsons. I think that's pronounced Malay or Malay rather than male Mark 1. But now you can see how much that is looking like a proper tank. That's the shape we are familiar with. And I think it's been designed beautifully. Only one thing I note there, look, is it's see-through. That section there is see-through. And it shouldn't be. But that's the only graphical issue I've noticed so far. Look at the detail on this. Fantastic. I really love it. Right, primary weapon. And mount our adaptations of the quick-firing 6-pounder gun. It should be more than sufficient for the anticipated opposition. There you go. Now we're looking serious. Note that all available sockets must be filled before your design will be ready for trials. Now we are almost ready. What remains is to select the recommended ammunition rounds for the chosen 6-pounder. Let us go and consult our engineers on the ammunition loadout for our tank. Now we get to select the ammunition. As you can see, we only have a few slots available, so we need to choose our ammunition based on the type of opposition that we expect our tanks to encounter. Internal. In our case, let's make a reasonable mix, a general purpose, a common ammunition to take care of infantry. Let us select a solid shell in case we face armoured cars. Let us not forget the crew members. Now, I question this. If somebody out there has more information on this particular tank design than I do, I feel like in this particular instance we are seriously over-manning the tank. I think there should be a maximum of 4, minimum of 3 in this tank. But correct me if I'm wrong, please. Every combat unit should have a commander. Let's place him first. Next, let's give our vehicle a driver. Then 3 gunners. A loader would be handy to help gunners operate cannons. Our tank is a good machine, but let's add 2 mechanics just in case. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 men in that one tank. I don't think that's likely. 2 at the front, definitely. A loader engineer at the back. 3, 5 tops. I can't see how you would have 8. It just seems too many to me. Now let us inspect the impact of crew composition. As you can see, each role has a summary text and a crew score. The text explicitly describes if the allocated crew members are enough or not for the given role. Several statuses are available, with each status yielding certain bonuses or penalties to the associated tank attributes. So we've got 4 out of 4 for the commander, driver is 4 out of 4, gunner is overcrewed, 12 out of 8. So the same, we've got 1 too many guys there and 1 too many mechanics, which would bring it down to 6, 2, 4, 6, which I still think is too high, but correct me if I'm wrong. Note that the inoperable condition literally means that the design cannot be finalised until the issue is resolved. It is important to give the tank crew every bit of advantage that we can offer. Let us consult with our specialists on what we can offer right now. We have a few slots available, so let's select the first one. Now we already have some crew gear to choose from. For the time being, we have both handheld guns and rifles. Let us equip our crewmen with some handguns to defend through those pistol holes. Let us further equip our crew with additional defensive gear. We can pick up rifles to further increase their chances to survive if they have to defend themselves, and 1 slot left to fill. For the last socket, we can select the crewman face mask. This will decrease the deadly effects of bullet splashes inside of the tank. Awful looking thing. Now we are almost set. Please inspect the breakdown of the required raw resources, corresponding man hours, and the estimation of the production cost. Please note that a tank is a complex vehicle and that there are multiple factors that are affecting its final attributes. It will take some rigorous trials until we learn what kind of attributes we have ended up with. Until then, we can only guess. Let us finalise our design with the proper name that will go into history as the first ever tank. Please choose the name of your liking. And last time I called her Big Bertha, so we'll stick with that. Now all that's left is to assign the available engineers to the process, and the tank design project is ready to start. So you can see it's going to take 12 days for that design, so we'll skip forward. And you can see that 15 of our engineers are assigned over here, and they're producing 120 man-hours per day. The design is now completed and we have our first tank design. Congratulations, a brand new Big Bertha tank design project has been successfully completed and is ready for the production. Make sure to prepare the assembly line for your new tank at the production hall, and don't forget to assign the relieved engineers to a new task. Remember, you need to produce at least one unit of your new tank before your potential customers will agree to even consider it in the upcoming contracts. Let us proceed to the production hall and learn how to handle the production queue. We are finally in the production hall. Right now, you have only one final assembly line available to you, but later you will probably expand this hall and introduce different types of lines to enhance the overall productivity. Now we need to select the tank model that we need to produce. Note our commercial team members left us some useful info. From here you can directly see how many tanks of this model that has been contracted already, and the number of tanks of this type that have currently been produced and are awaiting shipment to the customer. After the model is selected, you can also assess the material production costs. Let's produce a single unit of your tank for marketing purposes and assign your workers. You can see the amount of days it will take for the production to complete. Now it's time to start the production. It's going to take 5 days. Now, as we have used some of our resources, it is wise to restock them. We should do this now whilst we have the budget available. Let us leave the production hall and proceed to the factory ground. Note, as with the other buildings, you can see already from the factory ground view how many days are left until the end of the production batch. Production completed. Production order of 1 Big Bertha tanks. Oh look. Well, that's annoying. I must have had caps lock on. Big Bertha tanks has been successfully completed, with 1 being produced and 0 fell victim to sabotage attempts by our competitors. Also, yeah, not just the enemy are going to try and sabotage you, but also other companies who make tanks might try and sabotage you as well. The newly produced vehicles have been relocated to your warehouse, where they are waiting to be dispatched to your eager customers. The assembly line is now idle and is ready to be loaded with the new order. Now it is time to visit the warehouse and restock the supplies for future orders. The warehouse building combines 2 critical functions. We have spent some resources on the first tank, so let us restock some of those materials. First, let us proceed to the material storage and check out the current situation there. As you can see, each resource has more than one supplier. The difference between them is in the delivery speed, which is counted in days, safety of the delivery, which defines the percentage chance of the total order that is guaranteed to be delivered, and the amount of specific resources that are available for sale, and of course the price. Whenever you choose a supplier, you consider all of these factors when making a decision. Note that the other resources can be purchased in the same manner by switching between different tabs and accessing the list of other suppliers. There's a lot of stuff here, but I can't show it all to you. You also have a maximum storage amount, which is up here. So we can have 35,000 units of anything, which is actually not that much. So I presume we can expand this area so that we can hold more resources in the future. Let us return to the halls. The second function, which will be available soon enough, is the delivery of your tanks to your customers. Unfortunately, we don't have any active contracts for the time being, so we will have to return here later when the time is right. So we can't do that right now. The demand for your tanks will grow very quickly if you manage to produce good designs and deliver them on time to your customer. You will very quickly need to attract new workers, engineers, and secure the means of control financing flows of your company. Let us now visit the building where you can manage these processes. I hope you like your personnel cabinet and the outside view. It's brand new, so some things are not yet functional. Our workers are still struggling to install the telephone cable, and the lock system for the safe needs some adjustment before it's ready to be used. The legal office for corporate advancements is also not yet in place. So let us check the situation on the labour market. Look at this fantastic layout, isn't that great? I'm so looking forward to getting into this game when it fully releases. Your secretary has summarised all information for your convenience. That includes all information about the workers. A similar summary relating to your engineers has also been compiled. The executive summary relating to your top managers and administrators has also been prepared. You probably noticed that you currently have no administrators and all your buildings are working without the top management. Let's change that. Let us employ your first administrator and assign him to the research department. As you can see, we have currently attracted 3 very promising candidates. They all have different backgrounds and therefore can assist you in different ways. You can access their CV if you check the info folder. Let us study in more detail what Mr. Eustace Diencourt can offer us. They're presumably French, but he was born in Hertfordshire. After finishing boarding school at the Charterhouse, he was employed as a naval architect at Armstrong, Whitworth, ampersand, that needs to be fixed, company, as a naval architect. So he's got a lot of credibility. He's definitely looking very good for us. On the left side you can find a summary of his background, while on the right you can find the list of his skills that he is ready to offer. Please note that his skills will only be applied when he is assigned to a building. Let's employ Mr. Eustace and assign him to the research department. And that's it. He's now running the research centre. Excellent. Now his skills are put to good use and the productivity of the research department has received a significant boost in performance. Now we should study the financial reports. Our accountant did his best to organise various reports in a single document so that you can save time while studying it. For your convenience, all income is reported to the left and is divided into the income from tank sales and other sources such as resource resale, grants and bank loans. Expenses are shown on the right, with additional details given for building maintenance and salary for your employees. Finally, please note that you can always access the complete annual report if required, but I can't do that right now. Let us now return to the factory grounds. This concludes my brief introduction. I believe you now have all the necessary knowledge to continue the venture so that your father started. I will also make sure to offer my assistance whenever the situation will require it. Otherwise, please don't hesitate to reach me whenever you need my advice. Best of luck. The story of Arms Trade Tycoon starts now. So that kind of leaves you. That's it now. You're like, off you go do it yourself. So I guess we could sort of do some research and stuff like that. But the only thing I think I can do right now, the wrong place. The engineering? It must be engineering. No. Okay, bear with me whilst I try and figure out which room I need to be in. Maybe warehouse. Tank storage. Big Bertha. It's not going to be in the production line, no. It's not any of these three. Administration? No. Design. There we go. Trials. You're about to commit your prototype to rigorous trials on our polygon. These trials will reveal final attributes of the design and yield minor reputation boosts to your tank. Make sure to test all your new vehicles, as it would help you to unlock all weak sides of your designs and will direct you to the potential improvements. So that's got trials ongoing. So if we come out of here, you can see that's going to take 3 days. We'll skip the 3 days. We don't get to see any of the trials, sadly, but Big Bertha trials complete. Finally, the Big Bertha model trials are complete. Overall tank shown acceptable performance and our engineers seem to be satisfied with their work. However, it was noticed that some problems still do exist. This can affect battle performance, so maybe some design iterations are still due. Make sure that the tank's weight and attributes are adequate and fit the direction outlined in the existing tank golden set. And that's it, guys. That's pretty much the tutorial there, the demo. Now, I'm going to try and put a bit of gameplay together in this, but that's my first look sort of gameplay review. I'm really impressed. I'm very excited to see more from this game. I'd like to know what your thoughts on it are, and if you've got any recommendations or suggestions, please let me know and I'll try and pass that on to the devs as well. But that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.